When Sheryl Crow went out there and sold her Tesla, and she's like, I'm going to donate the money to NPR. You should be the ones that are funding NPR. We shouldn't have to care about this at the government level anymore.
These Democrats are just kind of irreparably broken by this point by Donald Trump, because you see that not just in the way that they react to anything Elon Musk does regarding Tesla, but also with their reaction to Doge. I mean, their entire reaction to this has been hysterical. I mean, imagine telling your constituents, I hate the fact that there is a team working to make sure that your tax dollars are going to good use. And yet that is what the Democrats continue to do since Donald Trump has been elected. It is so incredibly wild to me to see them doubling down on the same antics that got Donald Trump the mandate in the first place. I mean, they are just so irreparably broken by this point. There's no average American that is listening to them going like, oh, we should trust these people again.
All right, guys, good to see you. We're ready to head into the weekend. Tomorrow, a big show. Caroline Levitt is here. I'm going to play Jim Acosta. She's going to answer my questions. No, I'm kidding. I will not be like that. But it's going to be fun having a conversation with her. So make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because you're not going to want to miss this. No one else is going to have this conversation. Former press secretary to current. I mean, this is going to be fun. What a week at the White House, by the way. Win after win after win. The president chalking it up. I know the media doesn't like it, but that's their job to act like a bunch of fools because everyone else has fallen in line. They need to play that role. So anyway, we've got a lot to break down. All-star panel from the Blazes here. As I am going to tell them right now, Glenn Beck is watching. Somebody will be fired depending on how this goes down. I'm just saying it right now. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you about a great place in California. If you've never been out to the Reagan Library and Foundation Institute out there, it's in Simi Valley. It is unreal. And President Reagan was the one who said, freedom is never more than a generation away from extinction. And there's this really, really cool, unique opportunity that's available at the Reagan Institute and Library right now that I got to tell you about because there's a deadline coming up and it's critical to prepare the next generation to lead with integrity and with American values. And this is what the Great American Leadership Program is all about. It's not a summer camp. It's an elite hands-on leadership summit designed to equip and train the next generations of Americans. It's not just a program, though. Picture this. You're at Pepperdine University in Malibu. You got the beautiful views. You got the Reagan Library, and you get to play different roles to actually go through the machinations of critical decision-making. You play the president. You could be in the National Command Military Center. You could even play someone in the media to find out what it's like to ask stupid questions. But you get the point. You get to do something very, very unique in a very, very special place. Fireside chats on the beach with key inspiring speakers, leadership challenges that get you ready. This is this July, and you're not going to want to miss this opportunity to challenge yourself to build lifelong relationships. The bottom line is if we want to keep Reagan's vision alive, we need to invest in the next generation. Spots are limited and filling up fast. Use code SPICER25 to save 25% now. This exclusive offer expires March 15th. That's what I was talking about. Freedom is not guaranteed. If you know a young person that could benefit from this, go to reaganfoundation.org/summer to secure your spot. reaganfoundation.org/summer. Use code SPICER25. Remember, March 15th is a big deadline. But let me tell you one more thing before we get to the panel. If you are a business owner or the person that's in charge of the finances, I'm about to make your life a lot easier. If you don't have a ramp card or have not gotten the ramp system, I'm going to make your life so much better. Listen, these cards transform how you do expenses. You know what it's like if you're that person. You're chasing around. Hey, Bobby, where's your expense from lunch the other day? Did you get that hotel receipt? No more, no mas. The ramp card makes it easy. It simplifies everything with respect to your expenses. Unbelievable. You can set this thing up in like 15 minutes. They issue virtual cards like a Visa card, or a physical card like an actual Visa card or a virtual card. So if it's spending online or at a hotel, you can expense things and set up columns to keep people accountable and make sure they have limits depending on where they can go. This will make your life as a CFO or the financial person so much easier. It's free. It incorporates into your current systems, and they've got this complimentary white glove onboarding system. It's unbelievable. And for a limited time, listeners of the show can get $250 in your pocket. Free money, me giving you free money. Just go to ramp.com/Spicer, ramp.com/Spicer. Make your life easier and get $250 in your pocket. Cards are issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce the all-star panel from Blaze Media. Jill Savage, the host of Blaze News and The Mandate. Matthew Peterson, the editor-in-chief, and our longtime friend, Sara Gonzales, who is the host of Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Guys, great to see you all. As I said, Glenn is watching. One of you will be fired at the end of the show. So we are grading answers on a curve. But thank you all for being here. By the way, how awesome was it that I have Caroline Levitt tomorrow? You guys filled that new media seat. Was it like a big deal for the Blaze, Matthew?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I think for a lot of people at Blaze, as so many other conservative media outlets, they had wanted this for years, and then all of a sudden, the golden age is here. So it feels good. And by the way, not only do I not want to lose, I just want the Cadillac Eldorado.
Yeah. Well, it's just full disclosure, it is used. I mean, it's not one of the new ones. This is sort of old. We were able to secure it on Craigslist, and it's a lease. Jill Savage, among the folks at the Blaze, are you guys, like, from a company standpoint, say, hey, can I go up and sit in the new media seat, or can I go up? Because I kind of wondered this when they opened it up. Would people want to come up and travel and be in a White House briefing? Or is it, hey, I want someone from the company to do it, or I want to watch? I mean, like, is there competition or interest among other people at an outlet like the Blaze in coming up to the White House?
Well, it's still very early on right now, and Chris Bedford is our DC correspondent and our political editor out there, so he got the first crack at it. But I'm sure as time goes on, Sean, that a lot of people here in Dallas, where we're located, are going to be like, you know what? Maybe you should fly me out to Washington, D.C. Maybe we should be the people that are going out there. Chris Bedford can't have all the fun, right? Like, no. We're fun people. We can ask good questions too, Sean.
Sara Gonzales, you got that background that I love. Cherry blossom season's coming up. It would match nicely. Maybe you take a moment, come on up and see the cherry blossoms and go to a briefing. What do you think?
Listen, as long as it's just a moment, Sean, because we all know Elon has done a great job of digging out some of the swamp, but it is still a little swampy there, and I don't want to get used to any of the air about it. So I will agree to a very temporary short trip to have some fun with Caroline Levitt, but I'm not agreeing to anything else.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's get into some issues. The thing that I find interesting right now is everybody was wringing their hands. When I mean everybody, the DC establishment, the media, about President Trump and how he was dealing with Ukraine. And here we are getting a deal, getting peace. And I kept saying over and over again, and is why everyone worries about the process and not the outcome, Matthew. And that was what I thought was fascinating. We're on the precipice of peace in Ukraine, a war ending, killing ending, destruction ending. And everybody was worried about what seat everybody had, as opposed to, can a deal be struck to end the bloodshed?
Look, this is 2016, the first term all over again, right? I mean, freaking out about norms in the process when norms have been, disappeared for a long time. And frankly, the norms that do exist, presidents signing documents with their aides are pretty terrible. So this is the same thing. The difference is that I think the audience is at the base, the voters are in a very different place. And so you can run the same playbook and wring your hands and, oh, it was terrible what they did to Zelensky. But at the end of the day, this is now moving towards a merit-based society, and getting the job done is what people care about, and they're going to notice it. It's not like last time.
The thing that's so funny, I mean, we talk about norms, and Jill, Speaker Johnson, there's a lot of concern about whether he'd keep the team together. And this week, we saw the House pass again, -1. Right? Tom Massie voted no, but the continuing resolution to keep the government open, the Freedom Caucus got on board. And I sort of am giving, Matthew mentioned the Trump first term, and having been there wasn't a sense of team, not just within the White House, but overall in the party. And one of the things that I think is starkly different is that everybody seems to be on the team. And yes, Tom Massie voted no, but it wasn't because he's opposed to it. He just generally doesn't like government spending. But everybody else was on board. And I think that's kind of missed in the narrative right now.
Well, Sean, we're so close to the weekend here as, just normal working people. But the members of the House, they're already off, right? They were like, we did so much work. We got a CR passed. We were already going to take the Thursday and Friday off, but they even just took Wednesday. They were like, you know what? We've done so much this week. We're just going to give ourselves that extra day off because, in D.C., you can only work so hard for so long. But there is a sense of camaraderie right now in the Republicans because Donald Trump went out and got the mandate that he got. So right now, everybody has to play ball with Donald Trump. He can come down and you can't be that one lone person, right? Thomas Massie is kind of the exception. We already knew who he was and that he was going to be the no vote. He's always going to be that guy. But anybody else that was going to be stepping out, right? We saw like a Tim Burchett earlier in the week say, I don't know if I'm going to vote for it or not. Well, guess what? Everybody, like you're saying, even the House Freedom Caucus is like, yeah, we're behind it, which is not a normal thing there in Washington, D.C. for all these people. And there are about 20 or so Republicans that voted for a CR for the first time in their careers because there is an overwhelming mandate and you do not want to go against Donald Trump right now. He is so popular, everything that he's doing, right? He's only had a couple of errors so far in the first few weeks of his presidency, which has produced so many results unlike anything that we've ever seen before. He's moving at a lightning speed. And so at this point, you're just like, I'm not going to go up against this freight train. No. I'm going to get on the train and make sure that my political career is still going.
Sara Gonzales, to Jill's point, I feel like the Trump team was like, we're not just letting Tom Massie vote no. Chris LaCivita, his campaign manager, went out there and said, like, all right, we're going to primary you. And Donald Trump doubled down on it and put out a thing. And yet a lot of people in the MAGA universe came to Tom Massie's defense. And so it's sort of this interesting dynamic here, which is we're going to pressure you. But also a lot of people, I don't know, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that Massie's getting a pass because it's a purity thing? It's not a I don't like Donald Trump thing. It's a I just don't like government spending, and therefore I'm voting no. I'm still on the Trump team, though.
Yeah, I think that Massie's in a very unique position because he has always held these standards and he's doing it for, as you mentioned, it's the purity reasons. He's doing it for ideological reasons that, generally speaking, the MAGA team agrees with, right? I mean, we just voted in President Trump knowing that he said that he was going to clean out the waste, the fraud, the corruption in government spending. You have Elon doing all of this great work with Doge. And so the American people obviously want all of our spending to be reduced. We don't want to be taxed to death. That is part of the reason that we just voted for Donald Trump to get in. So I think with Thomas Massie, this wouldn't work for anyone, but with Thomas Massie having this consistent view and with the MAGA America First crowd knowing this is what we want ultimately, we may disagree on how to get there, but ultimately we both want what, like, the end result of this, right? We all want us to cut spending. We all want to cut taxes. We all want to get to the same place. We just have different ideas and different approaches of how to get there. And so that's the only reason I think that Thomas Massie is getting this passed. And I will add, Sean, I love Donald Trump and I love what he's done so far. I don't think it was a good idea to go after him and to threaten to primary him because his constituents overwhelmingly love what he's doing. And the last time he had a primary, it didn't work out well for his opponent. So I personally wouldn't go after Thomas Massie the way that Donald Trump has chosen to do so, but I understand why he wants Thomas Massie to fall in line.
Do Matthew and Jill, do you guys agree? I mean, like, I just wonder if that's it, because he has survived a primary the last time that he kind of invoked the ire of Trump and survived. So is this smart or is this good politics? Because it's not really about Massie. It's about sending a message to everyone else is, hey, we might let Massie get out of line, but don't you dare think about it.
Jill can speak to, we asked people on the show, she did a little poll in the audience, and I think it was telling, but I think this was strategic. I mean, it almost works in Trump's favor because everyone does kind of like Massie, but it was an FO moment. I mean, F around and find out, where Trump was sending a signal. If you do want to be like Massie, this will be my response. And so there's a number of other people out there who aren't in Massie's position who got them. You will see the message loud and clear. We're not joking around, right? It was the message. I will primary your ass if you do this. And so I think it's classic Trump. I don't think that they will actually attack Massie later on, but I think it was a warning shot across the bow that everyone has to get in line. And I'll say, there were multiple people in DC last time I was there worried about the CR and this in the White House. And, And they're trying to plan how to get the CR through. And I remember thinking to myself, and I thought all along, that they're not going to have a problem because, everyone will understand that Trump is messing around and everyone has to get in line.
Yeah, Matthew, to your point, 75% of people said they were sassy with Massie, and the rest of them were all MAGA. I was like, listen, if he puts it out there, we can too. I just love that phrase. But the thing that Thomas Massie has on his side, and the reason that the people in his state are with him, is because he does something that's very unique in Congress. Is he is actually fully transparent with what he does, and he does what he says he's going to do, which is something that Donald Trump should look at and say, okay, you know what? Promises made, promises kept. Kind of sounds like the same thing that Thomas Massie does for his constituents back there as well. So it is, it's one of those cases that's going to say, okay, Donald Trump, you won this CR fight. But to Sarah's point, I think that this is it's kind of an unforced error because they've already tried this at one point, and Thomas Massie is very well liked.
So I guess, are we all in agreement that this is not about Massie? This is a proxy that's, we'll let you get away with it, but it's a signal to everyone else. He might get away because he can win his own primary, but you won't, and we'll come after you. I think that seems like we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, and I think that he definitely was able to keep the other Republicans in line, right? Nobody else stepped out after he did that. So, if it was a scare tactic for other Republicans, I guess you could say in that sense it worked.
All right, Sarah, I want to bring up something that's kind of unique. We talk about getting out of line. There was a vote earlier this week that didn't get a lot of attention, but I thought was interesting. And let me read you the headline. It says a dozen House Republicans help their Democratic colleagues bypass Speaker Johnson and force a vote to allow House members to vote by proxy for up to 3 months after having children. And Anna Paulina Luna from Florida said, we won fair and square, who was the Republican leader of this. Now, generally speaking, proxy voting is not ever been allowed in the House. Speaker Pelosi, when the Dems were in during COVID, made it sort of a practice that it was cool and okay. It is a very interesting situation, especially for young moms, to say, I don't want to have to choose between serving in Congress and being there for my young child.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, being a mom myself, I understand and I can appreciate the issues with that. The problem is that we're dealing with people who, as Jill already pointed out, we're dealing with people who don't like to work. And when there's less accountability, right? There's less accountability, and they're like, oh, I can just vote by proxy for 3 months. I just think that you're going to have problems with that because it's going to become a slippery slope. So I understand, and I understand Anna Paulina Luna. I understand her name escapes me. The Democrat representative who came out there, and I hated her approach, by the way, because she came out there and she was like, I demand that Congress pass that we can vote by proxy because I just had a baby. And I can appreciate the young mom's struggle. But at the same time, you can't expect Congress to change everything just for you because you decided to have a family. So it's a really hard thing to balance, but my problem is the slippery slope aspect, that I can understand and appreciate a new mom wanting to stay home with her baby and not wanting to choose between, serving in Congress and being a mom. I can appreciate that. It's just the slippery slope that I'm concerned about with a bunch of people who really, they seem to be allergic to work for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a bit of a difference because it's not like you're just at some rando job, plugging away, that like your district needs a vote on key issues. And I would kind of, I agree with you. The slippery slope is a concern. And Jill, as another, I kind of look at this and go, okay, if it's confined to 3 months and they can do it, I don't want people to have to choose. If there's a good representative who's young and vibrant, like an Anna Paulina Luna, I don't want to have them to choose about whether I should run or not, or whether or not I want to run back to Washington to cast some silly vote, as opposed to having some critical time with my young child.
Yeah, no, and I do see both sides of this issue for sure. But just to go through one more time and just to double down on the Congress doesn't work thing, if you're in the House, their first 5-day work week doesn't come up until the month of June. Sean. So if you're a working mom out there and you're just trying to get by, and you're in a regular job just to feed your family, And then you look at Congress and you say, I'm sorry, wait, you make $174,000 and you can't figure out like a 3 or 4 day work week for most of the year until we get to the summer, right? Like there's so much that is happening right now and so many big bills that are up that we do need to make sure that there is adequate representation for everybody in their districts. But I do remember this kind of came up as well with Byron Donalds. He went out and did the Bill Maher interview and he was skipping out and they said that he was having proxy votes. So you can see definitely that there would need to be very strict stipulations on this. And even if it is a time frame is 3 months, is that the correct amount of time? I don't know at this point, but I do see that you want to side with working moms. But again, Congress, it's very hard for me to just say, oh no, we need to give Congress more benefits and more of this and more of that when the people in their districts are still struggling to do the same things.
Fair enough. Okay. Matthew, there's something that I think the media missed this week. Everybody was all up in arms because Elon Musk brought a bunch of Teslas to the White House driveway, and President Trump was trying them. And the thing that I think is ironic about a lot of the things that's been happening in D.C. is Democrats shun Republicans or conservatives, and then it comes full circle. And where I thought things got missed was that when Biden did this big EV, electrical vehicle showcase, whatever they wanted to call it at the White House, they snubbed Elon Musk. And it was intentional. Here you got this guy that's, a great company, his huge success story, and doing very well at the time, and they snub him. And now Trump goes, okay, let's bring all these Teslas, put them on the White House driveway and showcase them. I know that the media wants to talk about Elon's entanglement with the government or whatever, but I do find it kind of ironic that every time they try to do something to the right, it ends up slingshotting back in the opposite way, the kind of the way they attack Trump, and then he ends up back in the White House.
I think that's because the audience knows how hypocritical these people are now, so it does slingshot back because just think about the world's historical hypocrisy, arrogance, and stupidity of what they did with Elon Musk, who was the darling of a lot of these people before. The symbol of a Tesla was upper middle class aspiration in liberal society, right? Until not very long ago, and then worked out well for his business in a sense because then it became sort of a something everyone could afford, everyone wanted, and the brand sort of broadened out. So the idea that the same people who have no problem with the entanglements of the Biden family with China or foreign nations, never mind the sort of products and services that have been force-fed to Americans with political alignment to the left for the last decade, are all of a sudden going to be up in arms about Teslas at the White House is ridiculous. And it's not just ridiculous to people on the right. It's ridiculous to normal people sort of who weren't paying attention in the middle. Like, Elon's cool. He has the Teslas. Who cares? No one cares because we've seen this go on for a long time. No one was complaining when Google was in the White House with Obama. No one was complaining with any of these other. So I think people are over that. And in a way, the left, they have their own selves to blame because they've been doing this for years.
It feels like, Sean, when Sheryl Crow went out there and sold her Tesla and she's like, I'm going to donate the money to NPR. Okay, we need to normalize that, right? One, liberals can start getting rid of their Teslas, and then all the conservatives, like to Matt's point, it's going to be cool now. Like, this is a bigger audience at this point in time. It's not just the, I'm going to save the environment, I'm going to do it for the Green New Deal crowd. No, and you know what? You should be the ones that are funding NPR. We shouldn't have to care about this at the government level anymore. Forget it. Like, there's a new way of doing things now.
Yeah. I would also add that these Democrats are just kind of irreparably broken by this point by Donald Trump, because you see that not just in the way that they react to anything Elon Musk does regarding Tesla, but also with their reaction to Doge. I mean, their entire reaction to this has been hysterical. I mean, imagine telling your constituents, I hate the fact that there is a team working to make sure that your tax dollars are going to good use. And yet that is what the Democrats continue to do since Donald Trump has been elected. It is so incredibly wild to me to see them doubling down on the same antics that got Donald Trump the mandate, shout out to Jill's show, that got Donald Trump the mandate in the first place. I mean, they are just so irreparably broken by this point. There's no average American that is listening to them going like, oh, we should trust these people again.
Sarah, I got to be honest with you. I think these silly, pathetic TikTok dances have an audience. I mean, when you push back and you dance and call yourself the Rizzler, as Rosa DeLauro did, there's a constituency for that. I mean, they are definitely owning the moron vote. And I think that's, you never know how big that is. You never know going
Fair.
in. I
Fair.
mean, there's an element, to be honest with you. There was a story out. Let me just find this, because I find this is what, to your point, the dances, all this kind of stuff, like, right, was, to me, insane. And then there's a story that comes out, and it says that basically they're going back to Bernie Sanders. He's become the default. It's like, okay, we tried the dances, we tried the other stuff, so let's go back to Bernie. And there's this story out about how he's getting these massive crowds, and they want to default to Bernie Sanders. And I'm like, oh my God, like, that's so bad. I mean, I don't even know what the analogy is, Matthew, but it's like when you're like, your team is losing, and you're like, all right, go get the 78-year-old. We'll bring him in. And then, like, no one in their right mind would be like, that's a good idea.
I'm once again asking you to pull me out of the closet and once again let me come and rescue you again. Look, Bernie Sanders, he doesn't work anymore because he's been discredited so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, we know people who wanted to like Bernie Sanders who became Trump fans in the media. I mean, you had people like Joe Rogan and others like flirting with. He's done.
How about in the Trump administration, Matt?
This is a guy who has been basically retired. Like he's been retired from his role to be trotted out and then used by the left multiple times. So it just goes to show they don't have anyone.
Okay, wait. Hold on real quick. You're getting me thinking, Matthew. Real quick. Does Bernie Sanders run again? Do you think that, like, in this election in 2020, he goes, I think I am the answer that the Democratic Party is looking for? I just wonder. I wonder if he runs again. Do you guys who thinks he runs?
I don't.
I mean, what else do they have? If he wants it and this is all they want is power, then who's he going to run against?
Okay, well, I got an answer for you, Jill. This is a story that came out this week. Senator Adam Schiff's, quote, all of the above approach to social media is starting to pay off. Democrats are in the wilderness and admit they need a new media strategy. Schiff has embraced it all, from TikTok to YouTube, X, and Blue Sky. We need to make sure people hear our message, and we're not just talking to the same people over and over again, says Schiff. This is the bottom of the barrel where you're like, all right, Sanders, or what about this Schiff guy? He's been discredited, but he's younger.
This is so bad. If this is all that they have on the left, this is so bad. And like, to go back to like your dancing videos and all that, like Jasmine Crockett, she's here in Dallas. She's trying to make herself a huge star right now because she sees like, oh, AOC's not doing that much. So they all see this is the time. And literally, if Adam Schiff is the best that you can do, we're doing okay, you guys. We're doing just fine.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree for a moment. I want to speak directly to Jasmine Crockett, Bernie Sanders, Adam Schiff, and also Kamala Harris. I think you should run. I really think you should run. Please, you will do so well. I think you have such a shot, and I think you can do it. Please run. That's my message to them.
Sarah,
I want to endorse Sarah's message.
Yeah, we saw Kamala Harris talking about Doritos and Uber Eats this week, right? It was JD Vance that was like, here's what we need to do. We need to get the illegals out, and we're going to have affordable housing again, math, right? And he's like giving a very coherent speech. And then we switched over to Kamala Harris, and she's like, so I'm okay with everybody knowing that I want Doritos, and Uber Eats is just going to know all that info, and they're going to have all my data, and that's just fine. And I'm like, this woman, they held same job. They are both vice presidents of the United States, back to back. And she tried to take over the top job, and this is what they have. I mean, Sarah, you do have a point. I mean, it's going to be easier to beat them if this is what they have.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jill. It would be very hard to beat them.
They are very formidable.
Yes.
I mean, look, the problem they have is, by the way, when we rolled that clip of Kamala the other day.
So we did DoorDash because I wanted Doritos. And the red carpet part was about to start. Nobody wanted to leave to go to the grocery store. So it was DoorDash. And I'm thinking about this, so I was willing to give up whatever might be the tracking of Kamala Harris's particular fondness for nacho cheese Doritos for the sake of getting a big bag of Doritos as I watched the Oscars.
I hadn't seen it yet. I saw it live, and my brains were, I could feel the brain cells popping and fizzling in my frontal lobe. I was dumber for having watched that clip. The problem that they have is that no one knows how to respond yet. They don't know what the proper response is. So you're not going to get the A-listers. They're right now, the A-listers are doing this, sir. They're putting their finger in the wind.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. Give me, just out of curiosity, Sarah named her A-list. Matthew, give me like an A- list or a B+, because I don't see it.
Well, here's the thing that you can't compose that. It's going to take 2 years, I would predict, until you actually find.
No, I think their A-list hasn't been born yet.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But what you can see is people like, dare we say it, the governor of a state that I used to live in, and I'm thankful I don't anymore, on the West Coast, changing things up a little bit or experimenting with this. And I think you're right. We haven't seen those leaders. It'll take 2 years. But in the meantime, anyone who is credible and has talent, they're not going to stick their neck out there with these losers. They're going to wait to see how things develop.
Yeah, I'm honestly, though, I'm with, like, there is a level of patheticness that I actually love a good fight. I want us to mix it up and to win. I want to see JD, like, at some point, like, I don't think this is fair. I do think this is going to be like high school, when you're like at recess, or probably in junior high or middle school or whatever, when you do like the you play wiffle ball and it starts to be like 20-0 and you're like, all right, I need Sarah, you're on the other team now. Matthew, you're stick with us. Jill, you go. I mean, like, you mix the teams back up because it's just so lopsided. Like, at some point, we're going to have to send some folks over just to help them.
But Sean, this is why they went through and they tried, because they saw JD Vance and they saw what he was capable of. They knew. And that's why they came out and said, oh, you know what, guys? JD Vance is weird. You better not even mess with him. He's just weird. And now you see he is a cultural phenomenon. All the memes are going on. He is embracing it. He even put one out himself. Like, if you're a young man in this country and you're at all on social media, you're like, you know what? I can get behind this guy. He seems like a pretty normal, cool guy. And what does the left have to counter that, right? Like the Jasmine Crockett dances? Is this is what you're putting up? This is how you're fighting it? Or Bernie Sanders? Okay, good luck.
There's two things. One, as I was thinking about this, their A-list comes over. Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, they're like, screw it. We're coming over to your team. Like, we don't want it. We're not sticking around. And then secondly, I think you're right, Jill. JD Vance, to me, the memes, the responses on X, the speeches, like, I think that he is starting to, like, it's like, if you go back to my sports analogy, like, he is now getting, like, he's lapping everybody in 2028 on the right. Like, I think that, I don't know, maybe there will technically be a primary, but I think JD Vance is starting to just literally run the track so much faster than everyone else that it's at some point it's going to be almost impossible to catch him, just in terms of support. Is anyone? I mean, I maybe I'm just so into, like, drinking the Kool-Aid here, but I think that JD is just owning this.
Yeah, it's not just you, Sean. He's very clearly has already demonstrated, in my opinion, has already demonstrated that he would be fit for the successor to the America First agenda. He's just masterful at everything that he touches. I mean, the Zelensky meeting as well was just like, holy cow, this guy has what it takes. So as long as he continues demonstrating that, I just don't see anyone even holding a candle to him.
And let me say, I mean, I remember being skeptical of JD Vance. He came around when I was at the Claremont Institute and he was trying to prove his bona fides. He was trying to say, I was against Trump, now I'm for Trump. And so I was very skeptical of him when I first got to know him a little bit. And, I'm thinking, here's a guy, Hillbilly Elegy. Yeah, it's a pretty good book, but, it's a little bit on the bubble as to, are you going to go back and defend these people? Everyone in D.C. is reading it and on the coast because it explains the Trump phenomenon. If you remember this, it wasn't quite clear which direction he was going to go. And I have to say, at the time and ever since, he was absolutely, he blew you away. I mean, he had a great, straightforward explanation of, how he had changed and how he was going to get Trump's endorsement. And from that time on, I said, this guy is a star. And it was hilarious when they said the weird thing. I said at the time, like, you go ahead and call JD Vance weird and see how that works out for you.
While running Tim Walz as your VP.
Yeah,
Sean,
exactly.
I used to work in the sports world as a sports reporter, so I'll throw this out there. Like, it feels like what the Democrats are doing is they're just getting somebody off the bench, right? Like, their quarterback is injured. It's like we have to wheel out Vinny Testaverde or something, right? Like, bring somebody out that we have nothing. You know what? Give him the phone call. Whereas Donald Trump is like, the Packers are a good example of this. They always have somebody else in line, right? If it's Brett Favre, they have Aaron Rodgers. If it's Aaron Rodgers, they have Jordan Love, right? They have a bench that is ready to go, that is kind of back there, and you're going to learn, you're going to sit back and you're going to watch. And then when it's your time, when you're ready, we're going to fully unleash you and you can have at it. That's what it feels like right now. The Democrats have no bench. They have to make that phone call of like the guy that had been there before, but he really isn't relevant anymore. Like, that's where we're at right now.
As you say that, Jill Savage, I remember growing up when at one point the Patriots brought back Joe Grogan as their quarterback to play. I think it was the 86 Super Bowl against the Bears. And it was sort of like, they were like, Tony Easton wasn't cutting it. They're like, we're going to put Joe Grogan in. And they're like wheeling the dude out. And I'm like, but there's another guy that I name checked RFK. I love this week. He had this meeting with Big Food. And it was like Heinz and Nabisco, Tyson Foods, General Mills. And I was really interested about what would come out of that. Meaning, he could have called them out. He could have said, we're banning your foods. We're asking for greater transparency. And he basically came out and said, hey, you got to stop these dyes. Like, all of this processed food stuff. Like, and I actually was really excited because he's getting it done, and he's celebrating the wins. Like, there's this like burger joint. It's called Steak and Shake or something like that. Not Shake Shack, but Steak and Shake. And he's celebrating the fact that they're now cooking in tallow as opposed to seed oils. I love the fact that we're actually making progress on this issue. And Sarah, I can see the smile on your face. I'm like, I've never seen politically an issue manifest itself in a way like this has. Call it out, call these folks on the carpet, and they're almost voluntarily doing it as opposed to legislatively.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's because Donald Trump decided to bring a bunch of disruptors to the system in rather than continuing the same system that has been poisoning Americans. You talk about RFK's role, that has been poisoning Americans for decades now. I mean, you have the FDA and the CDC who have completely abdicated their responsibilities. They didn't care at all that all of these dyes, that all of these additives, that all of these chemicals were allowed into our foods for decades. Chemicals that are not allowed in Europe, in Korea, in all of these other places that have done the same studies that we've done, by the way, the same studies that we've done that have determined that there are certain carcinogens that we still allow to this day in our foods, including some of these dyes. And RFK is the guy to know this stuff. He has dedicated decades of his life to trying to help with this, mostly for our children. And you see that smile on my face, Sean, because this is an issue that I am so passionate about. Because
I know it is. That's why I'm saying I know you've had a great wellness journey.
But it's so hard to be a parent in this country right now and try to make healthy choices for your child, because everywhere you turn, I mean, even if you're looking for non-seed oils, you're looking for non-dyes, you've got all of these options that you have to sift through to make sure that you're not giving your children poison. And so RFK is the guy to lead this battle because he's a disruptor to the system, because he already knows that these agencies have been poisoning us because they are for big food, not for the American people. people. And so I am so excited to see what he has to do. One little quick tidbit for you guys. The red dye number 3 that the Biden administration banned in like the 11th hour, it actually was banned in cosmetic products 30 something years ago. They left it in food because the maraschino cherry industry said that they really needed that dye to make their cherries neon red. And so they decided to take the side of the maraschino cherry industry rather than removing a carcinogen from foods for the American people. RFK knows this and he is ready to root it out. And I am really excited about it.
By the way, I saw this video. You think about things that you don't know. I watched this video the other day on canola oil, which is actually from Canada oil. I mean, like, I was like, holy smokes, I had no idea of the origins of canola oil. I'll try to put that in the show link at some point. Matthew Peterson, you name-checked Gavin Newsom to some degree a little bit ago, and I want to introduce like a new little segment called Would You? Gavin has been doing this interview, this podcast, and he had Charlie Kirk, he's had Steve Bannon on now. So I'm going to ask you guys individually. You all host shows. Would you have Gavin Newsom on your show, Matthew Peterson?
Oh, absolutely.
Jill Savage. Oh, wait, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah,
Jill Savage, would you have Gavin Newsom on?
Of course. I want to see the full transition that he's trying to show right now.
Okay, Sara Gonzales, does he go on unfiltered with you?
Yes, but only after I have my staff make sure to bring all of the receipts, because I know that he would try to lie and we would need to show receipts on that.
All right. We talked about Adam Schiff. Matthew Peterson, Adam Schiff. Do you have him on your show?
That's a tough one. I'd like to see him in jail. I'd like to see him behind bars. So maybe if we digitally added those while he was on there, that would be good. I mean, look, I'm in favor of having anyone on, but with Newsom, it'd be more like, please parade around Peacock and let's see what you're doing. With Schiff, it's more, I would feel the burden of putting him behind bars, like on the show,
Yeah, I want to hold that dude accountable for the lies. Jill Savage, Adam Schiff, you have him on?
Yeah, I love that MP wants to be his one phone call there from behind bars. I don't know. I think at this point it would be a much different interview, like he's saying. Like if we're having him on just to grill him, but I don't need to know his overall thoughts. We already know that. And he's not trying to change his mind, so it's not interesting.
Sara Gonzales, Adam Schiff?
No, he has too much of a punchable face for me, and I would be nervous of what I would do, and I don't want to go to jail. I want him to go to jail.
Matthew, I want you out. How about
exactly.
AOC?
I want him to.
AOC.
Yes, because I would love nothing more than to horribly embarrass her. So I'm totally in for that.
Matthew Peterson.
I want that to be in a informal setting. I think we should bring her out to the local restaurant Monaco for a drink and have the cameras there. And I don't really want to know what she thinks about politics. I want to talk to her about lifestyle and culture.
You mean you want to maybe get some drink recommendations as her, like as a bartender? She could tell you what drinks work well. And
is she making the drink at Monaco, Matt?
No, because they make my own martini there that I like. But what I want to do is just get her sense. I think she's fascinating as a star. I don't mean I want to go on a date with her. I mean I want to get her personal life. And what she thinks about like normal things. I think that would be super interesting. She's got a lot of star power. I don't really care what she thinks about politics.
Jill Savage, you have AOC on?
Yes, she has an economics degree and knows nothing about basic economics. And I just, for whatever reason, love this so much about her. And that would be my entire interview with her, would just be calling her out on very basic things that I'm like, they should have taught you this.
All right, before we get to winners and losers for the week, there's something this week. Again, I cannot believe this didn't get more attention. Mega Millions announced that it's raising the price from $2 to $5. I love me a good lottery ticket from time to time, just to imagine what it would be like to be a multimillionaire. $5, though, my New England sensibility says that that's getting a little close to nuts. Sarah, are you buying a $5 Mega Million ticket?
I'm not. I can't bring myself to gamble. I'm like, why would I give away my money if I can just keep it?
Okay. Because you can't dream of what it would be like to win $500 million for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Matthew Peterson, $5.
There's no way. I mean, I just figure when I buy a lottery ticket, I'm supporting the awful states too. Like, I mean, this is all going to someone's McMansion somewhere, you know, in some lame upper middle class neighborhood where all the houses look the same. I mean, it's disgusting, and I don't think we should be doing it anymore.
All right, Jill Savage, are you going to be the one person who wants to buy a Mega Millions ticket?
No chance. I think that I've purchased like 2 lottery tickets in my life, and that was like the Powerball when they got to like the huge billions, like whatever the all-time highs were. That's the only time that I've ever participated. And I was like, you know what? That's worth it just to throw a couple bucks at it.
All right, real quick, let's go through winners and the losers of the week. Sarah, who's your winner? Who's your loser?
My winner is Sean Spicer for getting the Blaze extravaganza today.
Oh, I thought there were other reasons, but I'll take that. Who's your loser?
My loser is the globalists for all of the work that Donald Trump has done rather quickly on trying to find peace for Ukraine and Russia.
Fair enough. Matthew Peterson, winner and loser.
The winner is the Trump administration for getting the CR through. I mean, as they have, they really did a good job, shepherding this through so that there was no real debate other than Massie's protest vote. And that was actually fairly impressive that they're still moving with that kind of momentum and using it in an organized way. It says a lot for people who know something about politics. They're able to do that. So kudos to them. Losers, I still have to go back to this ongoing JD Vance meme thing. The losers right now, everyone in the mainstream media attempting cultural commentary on it, which they're still doing and still losing. And it is hilarious to see. Like, they can't even describe what's happening, So I'm still marveling at that loss, and straight into my veins. It energizes me, Sean.
Okay. Jill Savage, who's your winner and loser?
My winner of the week is Little Baby X because I love him so much. Everywhere that he goes with Elon and Trump, like at some point he's going to grow up and he's going to be like, I did what when I was just a little kid? Like, this is incredible. I'm just walking out of the White House and my dad's just selling Teslas to the president of the United States. My loser... Yes, a very good one. And the loser of the week, we had the Gavin Newsom conversation here. The transgender thing was probably the biggest part of his interview with Charlie Kirk. With that in mind, Dylan Mulvaney, because he's going on all of the legacy media right now trying to hawk his book, and it's still somewhere in the 500s on Amazon, showing you that no one actually cares.
I agree. All right, my winner of the week, and this is kind of drafting off of what Matthew said, but is Trump's foreign policy team. I think they did a fantastic job in Ukraine getting this to a peace despite all the media and leftist narrative. My loser of the week, and please take this in context, folks, is Ireland. Now, when people say that, they wonder why on the heels of St. Patrick's Day, and I just got to be clear. It's because Rosie O'Donnell has confirmed that she's moving to Ireland, and she will return to the U.S. when it's safe. So I feel bad for Ireland. It's not that they're not the loser, but I just feel bad because Rosie has decided to decamp to there. So that is my loser of the week. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for joining us. Glenn, let me know your recommendation. I think they all deserve to stay. Phenomenal panel. Thank you guys for making this for Blaze Media, for doing this. Tomorrow, Caroline Levitt on the show. Very excited about that. Make sure you hit the subscribe and tune in button. Go to SeanSpicer.com to sign up for my free newsletter. Although I always do love a good VIP. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here on The Sean Spicer Show.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.